Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video I want to talk about some of the benefits of Apollo neuroscience and whether or not Apollo can actually deliver those benefits. In other words, does Apollo work? Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel and you click on the little alert button so you get notified when I publish more videos like this. I also want to mention that this video and the description below might contain affiliated links. If you use them, I might get a commission. That doesn't change my editorial integrity, but it helps make this channel happen. I also want to mention that I'm not a medical doctor and nothing in this video should be considered medical advice. And with that said, let's get started. Now, before we talk about the benefits and whether or not Apollo works, let me tell you real quick what is Apollo. If you're new to this channel, if you're new to tactile stimulation and don't really know what Apollo is. Now, Apollo is a wearable that uses tactile stimulation to help balance your nervous system. And I have a dedicated review of Apollo and a video as well as on my blog. I'm going to link it down below, so check that out if you want to learn more about the device and my in-depth review of it. I also want to briefly tell you about how the nervous system works and how you can measure or assess how your nervous system is doing, because that is important to understand the science behind those benefits and to kind of give you a better idea of how you can judge whether or not a device like Apollo is effective. So the nervous system, the autonomic or autonomous nervous system, consists of two branches, the sympathetic branch and the parasympathetic branch. And the sympathetic branch is the one that's responsible for your fight or flight response. So whenever you're stressed, when you're in a life-threatening situation, the sympathetic nervous system makes sure, or at least increases your chances of survival. It's an evolutionary concept that has helped us survive in the presence of a threat. Let's say if a saber-toothed tiger, attacked, the sympathetic branch would make sure we either fight or we run away to save our lives. The parasympathetic branch, on the other hand, is responsible for resting and digesting. So whenever you're not stressed, your parasympathetic nervous system is dominant to help you recover, rest, and digest the food you have eaten. And those two branches are under constant competition. So it's not that one is active and the other one isn't. They're active both at the same time, and it's like they're playing like a tug of war kind of. They both pull on the opposite side of a rope and try to be the dominant one. And ultimately your physiology, your environment determines which one is more dominant at a given time. And there is nothing good or bad about one being active and the other one being a little bit less active. It really depends on the situation. If you're in a life-threatening situation, you want your sympathetic nervous system to respond, to make sure your pupils are dialed in properly so you can see the threat and not get distracted by anything else. You want to make sure that your stress hormones are high, your heart is racing, you're ready to fight or you're ready to run away. That's a good thing. The problem is that our brain and our nervous system cannot necessarily differentiate between those stressors we were genetically built to respond to and modern stressors that are not necessarily life-threatening. Issues at work, financial stress, crying kids, etc. Those are not life-threatening situations. However, our bodies very often respond in the same manner as if they would if there was a saber-toothed tiger about to attack. The problem in our modern society is that we are significantly more in sympathetic mode, meaning in a fight or flight response, chronically speaking, than is good for us. And so Apollo aims to help us rebalance the nervous system, take the sympathetic one a little bit down in cases where it's in overdrive, and help the parasympathetic one to be more active so we are not under constant stress, because constant chronic stress is, as we know, not good for our health. So that's just a quick primer on the nervous system and what Apollo is supposed to do. So in this video in particular, I want to talk about 4 health benefits or 4 claims that we're going to dive into to see if Apollo really works and can help in those areas. One is to help better regulate our nervous system, meaning to provide more balance if we are unnecessarily in sympathetic mode, in fight or flight response. The second one is, can Apollo increase heart rate variability? And if you don't know what heart rate variability is, it's the difference in timing between heartbeats. I've written about that in depth in a blog post, how I've increased my HRV by 50%. I also have a YouTube video on that. Check that out if you want to learn more. But the point is, HRV is the best indicator that we have, especially from a consumer perspective, to assess how our nervous system is doing. The higher the HRV is in comparison to our baseline, the more the parasympathetic branch is active. The lower our HRV is, the more our sympathetic nervous system is active. And so, considering that Apollo's goal is to help you balance your nervous system, to get you out of fight or flight mode, the assumption is that it can help us increase our HRV. Number 3 is enhance performance, exercise performance or athletic performance and recovery. And we talk about what has that got to do with the nervous system with HRV. And the 4th one is, can Apollo help you improve sleep? So those are the 4 benefits I want to dive into. And we start with the first one, can Apollo help balance or better regulate your nervous system? Because if that is true, then all the others kind of fall into place, because an increased HRV, better sleep, faster recovery, all of those are symptoms of a better regulated nervous system. So let's talk about nervous system regulation first. And if you look at the scientific evidence, you can see that there are 7 completed and 14 ongoing clinical trials, meaning intervention studies, that show the efficacy of Apollo to help users regulate their nervous system. And those studies have been conducted in different areas, from sleep to ADHD and PTSD. Very often in those cases, with neurological issues or stress-related issues, anxiety disorder, etc., you can see that those patients are in sympathetic overdrive. And so Apollo has been conducting a lot of studies in that regard. They've looked at exercise performance, etc., and all of those studies combined conclude that yes, Apollo can actually help better regulate your nervous system by bringing you out of sympathetic mode when necessary and upregulating your parasympathetic mode. And that then leads to a host of downstream benefits that we'll discuss throughout this video. So yes, it works, and I've noticed myself, I've been using Apollo, I think it's been now for 3 years maybe, it's been quite a while, and I've used Apollo in a variety of different use cases in the morning to help me with better focus, better cognition. I've used it to improve my exercise recovery, so before workouts and right after workouts. I've used it in the evening to kind of calm down, to stop my mind from spinning. If very often I am very good at falling asleep, but sometimes I think about the script of my next video, what I want to talk about, how I want to present the information, and so my head keeps spinning and it takes me a while to fall asleep. With Apollo, I can feel an immediate impact on how my mind settles and how I can unwind in the evening before going to bed. So we'll talk about that as well. But the bottom line is, Apollo certainly does work in terms of helping you balance your nervous system. Now, what about HRV? Now, as I've discussed, a well-balanced nervous system usually leads to an improvement in HRV. And so looking at the studies that have looked at or that have measured HRV, we can see that by using Apollo consistently, users have increased their HRV by 11% on average. Now, that's not only statistically meaningful or relevant, it's also meaningful because it leads to a lot of downstream effects, such as the next 2 that we're gonna talk about. So yes, using Apollo consistently can improve or increase your HRV baseline. I've increased mine by 50% over the last 2 years or so by not only using Apollo consistently, but by also implementing some of the other lifestyle factors that can negatively or positively influence HRV. And I'm gonna link that down below in the description if you wanna find out more about that. So yes, HRV is just a symptom. It's a downstream effect of a better regulated nervous system, and Apollo has been proven to help you improve that if you use it consistently. The recommendation is to use Apollo about 3 hours a day and several times a week. And if you do that, you will see not only an immediate improvement, like if you're stressed, your HRV is low and you use Apollo and your HRV goes up because you settle down, you recover from that stressor, but also over in the long run to improve your HRV baseline, to be in a more balanced state to start with, and to let certain stressors not derail you as much as they would have done previously before using Apollo. Number 3 has to do with enhanced recovery and exercise performance. One important aspect of performance is recovery after a workout, if we talk about athletic performance. So if you work out and you induce stress, you maybe damage some muscle tissue as part of the normal workout process, which is an important aspect of becoming fitter and more resilient. What's very important is what follows right after the workout, meaning the recovery. And that obviously has to do with nutrition and many other things. But one of the key aspects is to switch your body as quickly as possible from sympathetic mode to parasympathetic mode, because that's the part of the nervous system that heavily influences how well you're recovering on a cellular level, how quickly all those repair processes start. And so if you use Apollo, studies have shown, if you use Apollo before and after workouts, you can not only increase your HRV, but you can also lower your blood pressure, some of the other biomarkers that have to do with stress management. But the studies have shown that recovery times are improved. You can then work out again much quicker because your recovery completes or is done quicker. Your body is done faster recovering from the stressor of the previous workout, so you can work out again and induce stress again. That can help you then get better. But athletes have also been shown to be able to sustain peak performance for longer periods. So in other words, it improves recovery. Using Apollo improves recovery, but it also improves performance. There might be several factors involved in why performance is improved. One is maybe because recovery is more efficient, and that's why you're getting better quicker. But the second aspect of it is that you can just maintain your peak performance for a little bit longer because your nervous system is working more efficiently. And so a lot of athletes use Apollo before and after workouts to improve their recovery and performance. I'm not a professional athlete, but I certainly appreciate that I'm recovered quicker, that I can reduce my risk of injury. I'm 41 years old. Injuries usually take longer than they did 20 years ago, so I try to avoid them by focusing on recovery after intense workouts, and Apollo has been a key aspect of that. Number 3 is sleep improvements. Now, sleep is very important, obviously. It's the basis of, or the foundation of everything. If you don't sleep well, not much else matters. You cannot, regardless of how you eat and how much you exercise, if you don't sleep well, optimal health is probably gonna be difficult to achieve. So I pay a lot of attention to the quality of my sleep, and I usually sleep very well by having a consistent bedtime and wake time, etc. But there are times, as I mentioned before in this video, where I have a hard time settling down in the evening, either because I got a negative comment on one of my videos or on a social media post, or I'm just thinking about, nothing negative at all, I'm just thinking about the script of my next video or what I want to write about, etc. And so sometimes I have a hard time settling down and calming down, and that then negatively impacts my sleep. Not only how quickly I fall asleep, because if I fall asleep an hour later, then my circadian rhythm is off. I might get less deep sleep. My REM sleep might be compromised because I have to get up at the same time, etc. So there are a lot of downstream effects of falling asleep later. With Apollo, what I've noticed, if I use Apollo in the evening, it helps me settle down. And if I use it at night for sleep, actually, you can set Apollo or enable airplane mode so it doesn't emit any electromagnetic fields or radiation. I set it to airplane mode, I activate that sleep program or sleep vibe, as Apollo calls it, and I notice an improvement in deep sleep, and in REM sleep. So I spend more time in the restorative phases of sleep by using Apollo while sleeping. And looking at the scientific evidence, we can also see that Apollo improves how much time users spend sleeping and how much time they spend in the restorative phases of sleep. So sleep quality goes up, total sleep time increases, and that obviously then has a positive impact on how you function the next day. And that again goes back to balancing your nervous system, making sure that at night when you sleep, your parasympathetic nervous system is dominant, so your body can focus on resting and digesting and restoring rather than dealing with stressors that inhibit those processes that should happen at night. So overall, just based on the scientific evidence combined with my anecdotal evidence, my experience for having used Apollo for 3 or so years in different scenarios, I firmly believe that yes, Apollo does work in all of those categories. It can help you balance or better regulate your nervous system. It can improve your sleep. It can improve your exercise performance or athletic performance and recovery. and it can increase your HRV. Now, one of the important aspects of using Apollo is consistency. Using it once a month is likely not gonna lead to a lot of benefits, but if you use it consistently, I typically clip it on my belt or on my waistband here. I have programs scheduled that automatically start, so I don't even have to think about turning it on. It just does it in the morning. My energy program turns on. In the evening, my unwind program turns on. As long as you have it clipped to your, either wear it using a wristband or clip it to your clothing or stick it in your socks, whatever the case might be, you can use it consistently every day and get the most benefits out of Apollo and the tactile stimulation it provides to help you settle down, better manage stress, and be healthier and more well-adjusted overall. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, let me know in the comments what I could have done better. Until next time.